probably the only English person at Amnesia. I ended up interviewing 3 to 4 DJs every single night, 7 days a week. Do you know Amnesia used to be called the workshop of forgetfulness? There has been so many times where I felt intimidated or nervous about interviewing a specific artist, and then I've actually interviewed them, and we are all just humans. Walked in, I'm mega nervous. And when we got in there, she was eating a bowl of peas with ketchup. But I interviewed Cristiano Ronaldo's wife, Georgina, once.
Oh, wow.
You know when you stood somewhere and you think, why am I doing this?
Welcome back to the Toolroom Academy Artist Breakthrough Podcast, where we talk to some of the music industry's finest, the artists, people behind the scenes, DJs, promoters, people that can bring their skills, their knowledge and advice to help you in your careers. And today we have a very special guest. I'm feeling the pressure today, actually. Today we have the amazing Katie Knight, a respected presenter, broadcaster who spent years connecting artists, music and audiences through her work in the music industry. We're going to be exploring her journey, her insights from the industry and what really happens behind the scenes. And of course, getting some advice that can help you guys on your journey. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for the lovely intro.
You're really watching me on that intro. Let's see how he does his intros. I do feel the pressure.
No, don't be silly.
It's like I'm sitting with a driving instructor. I've got the queen of podcasts and broadcasters sitting here on the sofa today.
Yeah, but it also feels
really
weird for me to be sat on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, being interviewed, because normally
we'll see if it switches and you start just putting
asking
the questions on me.
So what do you think about this then, Pete?
I'm like, no, you're the guest, Katie. No, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for
so
inviting me.
Especially, you know, we've got a bump on the way here.
We've got a +1 in the room.
+1 in the room. It's nearly baked.
I know. I think we're like 75% baked.
Oh, bless
Maybe
you.
Maybe 80%.
Bless you. And it's pretty hot at the moment here as well, isn't it?
It is. So, I feel like we could be in Ibiza, you know.
I know. It's amazing. And we're going to talk about Ibiza.
We are going to talk about Ibiza, yeah.
Because that's something very connected. You know, you're very connected to Ibiza. It's a special place for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So let's dive in and let's talk about your career, because as I said in the intro, you're a highly respected broadcaster, presenter, you know, figure in the music industry. And you've worked a long time in the media, let's call it the media world. You know, how did that even start? Like, was it something that getting into nightlife, getting into clubbing, where you were like, that's an area you were drawn to? Was it a personality thing? Was it an opportunity you saw?
So I'd always wanted to be a presenter since I was about 5 years old. I wanted to be Cat Deeley. Cat Deeley was my idol when I was growing up.
Love that. What, CD UK vibes?
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
I was absolutely obsessed. And I used to do like little presenting reels. I'd get my mum to like film me and stuff when I was younger. Then I went through a stage where I was like, I want to be a weather girl.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool.
Nightlife, I didn't ever really think that I didn't think I would be presenting in this industry. I didn't really know where I wanted to take it, to be honest with you.
But that's an early age.
Yeah, this was a very early age. I want to be
like in TV.
This is what all I wanted to do. I've never wanted to have any other job ever. And in fact, I haven't really had many other jobs that has not been around media. So I went to university in Valencia. I grew up in Spain, and I studied journalism and audiovisual communication whilst I was there. Oh, okay. And
was that Spanish speaking?
That was Spanish speaking. Wow. Yeah, that was all in Spanish. Wow. And during my 3rd year at university, I had a connection to the marketing media at Amnesia at the time. It was a friend of a friend. And they were looking for someone to do work experience. Basically, they just needed somebody that could help just do a few PR jobs here and there, looking after press when they arrived at the club. Yeah. And it was basically a non-paid role, but they needed someone for 3 months. I'd just turned 20. I was like, I'll go to Ibiza for 3 months. And I ended up being there for 11 years from that moment. So I went over to Ibiza, and as I said, I had all of these like small jobs, which was looking after press and writing press releases in English and in Spanish. It really helped the fact that I could speak Spanish at the time as well.
I was going to say, that must have been a major thing.
Yeah, that was very helpful, very helpful. And then Amnesia had decided that they wanted to really start working on their YouTube channel. I don't think, I mean, obviously YouTube was big at the time. It wasn't as big as it is now. And they wanted somebody that could interview all of the artists that were playing at the club. Obviously, Amnesia opens 7 days a week, and there's 5-6 artists that play there every single night. So they said, do you want to give it a go? Do you want to come in and, you know, interview some of the artists? And I was like, this is what I've always wanted to do. I'm ready.
How amazing though. What a wicked opportunity from the very beginning.
And that's how it started.
Was you really into like clubbing and house music and stuff at uni at that time?
Yeah,
as well?
I was. I think I got a lot more into it after obviously being in Ibiza.
Totally.
The year before that, previously, so that was 2013 when I went over to Ibiza to live there. I'd gone to Ibiza for the very first time in 2012, and I had weirdly gone to Ibiza to go to Amnesia closing. And I remember Marco Carola was playing on the terrace. I remember just being stood there being like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Little did I know that I would end up working there for 6 years after that.
That's wicked. And it hadn't entered your thought of thinking, can I come here?
Never.
Can I work? Can I do that vocation that I want to do here?
No, I just thought this is something that I love and I can enjoy it. I'll carry on with my studies and see where it takes me. At university at the time, I was doing a little bit of radio, a little bit of written journalism, a TV presenting, but all just kind of, you know, work experience and just kind of finding out what I wanted to do. But I never thought I would end up in Ibiza.
What a wicked opportunity. Do you think speaking Spanish really helped? Did they say that, like, that helped?
I think it did, because at the time, you know, most of the artists that play at Amnesia, and it's the same today as well, are mostly international. But there are a lot of residents or artists or national artists that would come in and play. So I think that really helped.
And the people you actually working for at the club,
and the people that worked.
Was you just straight away talking Spanish?
Yeah, everybody was Spanish. I was probably the only English person at Amnesia that worked there.
So that could have really helped, like, the development and them actually offering you that next role and stuff,
definitely.
because you're instantly just communicating 100%.
With them. But that was like an intensive crash course for me working at Amnesia, because I ended up interviewing 3 to 4 DJs every single night, 7 days a week for that first season, for 4 months of the season.
Straight in. That's
straight
intense.
in. My first ever interview, I remember them asking me, do you want to do this? And I said, yeah, I'll give it a go, thinking, you know, the next few weeks they'll say, right, you've got your first interview. And they said, right, we need you in tonight, 11 p.m, Steve Aoki. I was like, oh my God. Okay. And now I look back on the interview and it's the most cringe interview. I had absolutely no idea what to ask. And then the next night I interviewed Carl Cox and Marco Carola. Back to back.
That's massive, isn't it?
And then that was it. That's just how, and then it just, from there, it just kind of just carried on. And I just, it was, as I said, an intensive crash course of just interviewing DJs. And I did that for like the next, that was 2013, 2014, I was back. And my role within Amnesia went from just doing these small PR jobs to interviewing on an evening, on early hours of the morning, but also, a bigger role within the PR department in the daytime as well. So it was a lot more like handling press.
So you got really involved. Yeah, really involved. That's wicked. Let's come back to Ibiza. I want to move around a little bit and we'll come back and delve deeper into that, because I want to talk a bit more of other things you've achieved. Of course, now your podcast as well.
Yes.
Which I've been very fortunate to come on the podcast and be a guest. I absolutely love that. But you're smashing it with that.
Thank
as
you.
well. It's really, really cool. And the name as well is so cool. Can you put me on the guest list? Because it is the most like commonly like requested thing to anyone who's got a connection in the music industry, to events promoters, which you must have heard so much working at Amnesia, friends, people you met. Just I bet you got texts all the time.
The time.
Is that where the name for your podcast came from?
Absolutely. I was like, it needs to be something relatable and something that people hear a lot in the industry. And I was like, can you put me on guest list? That has to be that.
That's so cool. So when did it start?
It started in 2019.
Okay.
And it basically started out of me just being curious about what other people do in the music industry, because up to that point I had literally only interviewed DJs, and it was backstage at clubs, backstage at festivals, and I realised that there's so many other people and so many other roles and careers within our industry that I just didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I was so curious to learn
Which
more.
you probably actually had connections to, or friends and everyone that you've been meeting the whole time through working what you're doing.
Absolutely. So I had lots of connections, and obviously, you know, when you're setting up an interview with an artist, it always goes through the management, or you know, or you meet the booking agent or the publicist. So I knew of all of these roles that existed,
but never had a deep conversation with someone. Yeah.
And so the only reason that I started the podcast was out of me just being curious, and because I thought it was a great way to network.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a great way for me to meet other people that I probably wouldn't normally be in the same room as.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my time was spent at, you know, in a club. What about the other roles? What about people that spends their days in offices, or, you know, there's so many other people in this industry, and I just wanted to know more. So it started off just because I was just really curious and wanted to network and meet other people. So I started in 2019. And yeah, I had this tiny little Zoom recorder thing. Nothing like this. I remember my first guest, I had it just sat on a table, and you can hear like sirens going by and the cars on the loud street. But yeah, I just love podcasting.
But I think even however you do it, you know, the thing is, I think the way you've gone into it and done it like that, it's so natural. So it's then really interesting from the other side of it when you're listening to hear the stories.
Totally.
And I think you really opened something up which has become so much more popular now. I mean, we've seen the growth of podcasts. Here we are now, right?
Yeah.
They're huge, but they're giving people such an insight that wouldn't normally get that.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of those conversations generally are just so natural that you have with people. That's what's been the growth of it. It's been great to see.
Also, I think, and I'm sure you will probably feel the same, you know, when you have a short interview with someone, sometimes I feel like I just have so many more questions.
Yeah.
So having the long format interview for me is, you just get so much more out of it. And it can go so many different ways. Like sometimes I think, okay, this is what I want to get out of this interview. And then you end up talking about something totally different. And I'm like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It could just go anywhere.
Conversation.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because those little short interviews, especially the backstage stuff.
Yeah.
I had a taste of that. We did Toolroom TV for a while. We had a few years when we used to do that on YouTube. And I saw one recently and I cringed so much. I think the first thing I asked David Guetta when he came off stage was like, did you enjoy it?
I've done that.
And it's like, what are they going to say to that? It was like, yeah. But I remember then asking him a question that was a bit different to everyone else. And I got deeper talking about his residency at Pasha. And I said, look, because you're not just a commercial artist. I know you love to play and you get to play 5 hours. And suddenly he lit up with deeper conversations. Then you think, well, that's it.
Yeah.
You can't do any more questions. You've got like 3 questions with the thing. Yeah. So I get what you mean.
Yeah.
You can sit down with someone and have a longer chat, right?
I do think it's harder to do short interviews though.
Yeah.
Because as you said, you've got to try and get the most out of them 5-10 minutes that you have with that guest.
Yeah.
So I think there's an art to it.
Yeah,
you're trying to get
very good at it. Honestly, I'm not just saying that.
Oh, like, thank you. So are you. You're a great interviewer and presenter. You are. I always say that.
I think it's just people that like talking.
Yeah.
You know,
just love a chat.
The guys know what I'm like. You can't shut me up for just interrupting talking. So if you can talk, I think you can get into this.
Yeah, exactly.
Know? So how many episodes have you done?
Oh my God, I don't know. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many episodes I've done.
You've done a lot. You've had a lot of great conversations.
It's a lot. There was a few months break. I can't remember. I think it was around just before COVID or during COVID, where I was a bit like, oh, don't, you know, when everyone kind of just lost their creativity a little bit. Yeah. I think there was a few months of quite a long break there, and then I got back into it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did COVID affect that? Because you only just started just before.
Yeah, I'd only just started it, and then I was like, oh, where am I going with this? And most people were like, they didn't have much to say or talk about. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of them online on Zoom. And then I had a little bit of a pause. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to just do them all in person, which obviously you get so much more out of sitting with somebody in person.
Definitely.
Obviously, now that I'm about to pop, I'm trying to work out, you know, how is this going to look and how can I carry on podcasting remotely. I did a little test with Louis Vega a few weeks ago, and actually it was fine. Yeah. You know, I think as long as you've got the questions there and you know kind of what you want to go.
Totally.
What you want to get out of it.
Connection, and you know, look, you're a pro.
It works.
You'll make it well. I just realised as well, if people are listening to this and not watching it. We said baked, popped, We've not actually mentioned that you are.
Oh yeah, I'm
actually
pregnant.
I was like, hang on a minute, they must be like, what's going on there? How far are you now?
I am 32 weeks pregnant.
Oh wow,
So
just a couple
I've
of
got
months left.
just a couple months left in this heat and this me waddling along the street.
And you're still smashing it. I mean, was you at Drum Code Festival
I
like a little
was.
while ago, wasn't you?
2 weeks ago, I was doing all of the
interviews with
all
the
the
bump.
interviews for Drum Code, which was an experience because it was boiling hot and and just stood there and like just surrounded by techno for a few hours was a lot, but I love it. But that's the only thing is that I'm finding it quite hard to get my head around is like I've worked so much since I started, since the time that I just was telling you about now, 2013 starting Amnesia. I've never not done anything and I've always worked for myself.
Yeah.
So now thinking about like actively taking a step back and not doing what I've always done is a really weird feeling, but I'm getting my head around it.
I can imagine. I mean, you had a quite an in-depth chat with Juliet Fox, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where she's obviously had her baby.
Absolutely.
And now, well, he's actually, toddler.
He is.
Sort of now, but you were talking a lot about that and how she's kind of dealt with that and climatized and how it all works around her stuff, doesn't it?
So, totally. I found it quite overwhelming at the beginning because I didn't really think that there was a lot out there on motherhood or pregnancy within the industry. So it was really interesting to have a conversation with Julia. And since then, obviously, I've met a lot of other women that have done it, and it's very much doable.
It's totally doable, isn't it? I think there's just this. It's weird because I think there's always been, from the old-fashioned days of, right, the man has a couple of weeks off and then they go back to work, and then it's like, oh, so what, am I going to give up my career, and do this?
Totally.
And me and my wife went through it all, and she decided to take some time out at home and getting her career back now. It's really difficult.
It
must be so difficult to be the woman in that situation. It's like, well, hang on, how does this work for us as well?
Yeah, totally. But I think, it's just all about knowing and believing that once that this is like a natural thing to go through, and like thousands of millions and billions of women have gone through it, and that it's totally fine, and you can 100%. Do everything.
I can see it. It'll be can you put me on the guest list episode and you'll be there, toddler on the knee.
I think so. I think it's going to happen. So, Seb, which is Juliet's husband, actually messaged me the other day, and he was saying, I've had this really great idea. I think we should do like these toddler raves. And I was like,
love it.
Yeah. I was like, that's a really good idea.
Already turning the experience around. It's so cool. So like when you went to uni, obviously you were with your parents in Valencia.
Yes.
Were they always really supportive of what you were doing?
Always.
And obviously when you turned around and went, hey, I'm going to go and live in Ibiza for 3 months. I'm not getting paid, but I'm going to stay there. They were cool with that. They've been supportive.
They were really supportive. There was definitely a time where my parents worried about me being in Ibiza.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's only natural, right?
Yeah, I was 20. My parents had partied in Ibiza when they were younger. They know what Ibiza is.
Yeah.
And I think there was definitely a time of worry, and I always just said to them that I was staying. Like, I'm staying. I'm not going to give up. I'm staying. But they've always been really, really supportive of me being there and my career, which has been, they've been my biggest support, really.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it without them. And, living in Ibiza at that age, obviously not making any money at all. I think eventually Amnesia started giving me 400 euros a month, which would literally paid for the room that I was living in.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any money for anything else after that. And it was a struggle. But I was just so determined that I was going to
It's so good on. You had supportive family.
Yeah.
But that is the story of Ibiza, isn't it?
It is.
Let's go back there and go deeper into that. Because obviously that was initially like 3 months, Amnesia, you stayed.
Yeah.
You then get this regular role of starting to do the presenting slightly more longer form on YouTube and stuff, which sounds really cool. So did you actually just stay on the island longer?
So what I think 2013, I finished my season in Ibiza, and then I went back home because I probably couldn't afford to do anything else after that. Then obviously went back 2014. I think I'd picked up a couple of social media clients at the time. So over winter, that was kind of just keeping me going. I was working with an agency, and they were running the socials for Musicom, for Marco Carola, and for Bridges for Music. And so I was very lucky to work with them and just help with social media jobs and like community management, basically.
And again, was that like through connections? Was
That
that
was
through
from people.
working
Yeah.
at Amnesia?
That was all connection related. Yeah.
So much comes from that, isn't it? When you're actually amongst it.
So much comes from that. I always say, you know, some of like the best connections that I've ever made have been at like after parties or like in green rooms
stuff,
or
isn't it?
It is. And, you know, I think sometimes going back to what I was saying about my parents worrying about me, I think there was a time where I definitely reached burnout a couple of times in Ibiza. And, you know, and that was because I was doing my PR job in the daytime at Amnesia, which started at 10 a.m. And then I would finish at the club at 7 p.m. I would go home, I would nap, I would make myself something really quick for dinner, and then be back at the club at midnight, and I would work until 6 in the morning.
Yeah, see, that's crazy.
And I did that 7 days a week for the full season. Obviously, I was going to reach burnout. And then the days on a Saturday and Sunday, I would go to Ants at Ushuaia.
Yeah.
And then, or if I'd finished my interviews early, then I would go to Space.
That is the
or
reality
wherever.
of working on
yeah,
Ibiza,
that's
right?
just what you. That is
People
what you
that
do.
actually go there and work.
Yeah,
that is what it's like.
it is what it's like.
My
It's so
best mate was
intense.
resident DJ at Coastline back in the day, where Kenya and all that is, and he used to DJ, and it was 12 hours.
Yeah,
Like he'd go there 12 p.m. until midnight, and it was 7 days a week.
that's all you did.
7 days a week. He'd finish at midnight, and then we'd go out and party. And sometimes he would go and start DJing the next day after like no sleep or an hour. But it was relentless, and I was like 12 hours on his feet playing all day. You know, so respect to it, and it's starting 10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m.
People wouldn't think that if you're working in Ibiza. So you were starting 10 a.m. doing PR job.
I've slept in Amnesia offices before. I have. There was just no point of me going home.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And also I was so determined to get these interviews done.
Yeah.
I mean, now if somebody said to me, you've got to interview somebody at 6 a.m, I'd be like, no chance. I'm not waiting until 6 a.m. But then, you know, I was 20. I was hungry. I was like, I don't care how long I've got to wait for.
You put the craft in.
And half of the time, it would get to 6 a.m. and the DJ would finish their set and say, I'm not doing this interview. I'm too tired, or I can't, I'm too drunk, or whatever. And I can't do the interview. So it would have just been a waste of time. And then I'd think, oh, well, I've got a meeting at 10 a.m. So I might just like hang around for a bit and then maybe go and have my siesta at home and come back.
So what sort of stuff would you do in the morning? What sort of work was that? Like,
so it would be looking after media. So sending out press releases, organising media to come to the club, check over reviews that have been written about the club.
So a lot of the admin side of it, not just the actual presenting and stuff.
Yeah, all in front of the laptop. So I'd just be sat in an office all day, preparing interviews, pitching for interviews to management and to agents to see if I could interview artists that week, which I then ended up not doing because I got to a point where I thought the more managers I ask, the more chances I've got of a no.
Yeah.
So I ended up cutting out the management and publicist and going straight to the artist before they start their set or after they finish their set and saying, can you come and chat with me for 5 minutes? And then I would get more yeses.
Love that.
It was just a lot of admin really.
And so the actual interviews that you used to do at Amnesia was like a specific place that you always used to go and do them in the club. Because obviously you've got to take them away from the music and the craziness of it. Yeah.
So we had Amnesia before actually maybe the last year I was there, it still functioned and it probably still functions to this day, but there was a radio inside Amnesia, a radio station inside Amnesia. So we would have a radio room with the radio mixer upstairs, and we would get signal from the main room and from the terrace, so we could broadcast that live, which was amazing. Yeah. There was, obviously in Ibiza, nothing ever really runs very smoothly. So I think we had a few like connection issues, and then that ended up just not happening. But it always stuck as the radio room, and it had some little silver chairs in there and an Amnesia sign, and we used to take them up there.
Used to do a radio show from there. There was a famous...
Yeah, there was a radio show from there, and it used to be on Ibiza Global Radio, and I think Sonica have done it as well.
Yeah. So that was the room you go and sit down and do.
And that's where you would sit down, and that's where I'd do all my interviews. Unless it was somebody, I remember vividly really trying very hard to interview Marcel Detman once, and that was inside the club on the main floor. And I'm like, we're with Marcel Detman. And then there's been a couple of other interviews where I knew for a fact that if I dragged them to this press room, it would never happen.
Yeah.
So I went down to the terrace whilst they were doing their sound check in an afternoon or early evening. One of those was Ricardo Villalobos. And I was like, there's no way that he's ever going to say yes to an interview. So whilst he was doing a sound check, I went downstairs. I was like, hi, Ricardo. Do you think, we could possibly do a really, really quick interview? I'm pretty sure I actually begged him to do the interview. And he said yes.
So you learn pretty quickly, like when you get the best time to do it, you worked out quite a cool little system. What was that like interviewing him? Was it cool? Was he chill?
He was so chill. He was really, really lovely. He gave me the time. Nice. I was probably, I don't know how many, I probably hadn't done even 10, 15 interviews at that point, but he was really nice. It's funny because that interview actually still does the rounds on social media, and it popped up the other day. And because he doesn't do interviews, it's so rare that you see a Ricardo Villalobos interview. Definitely. So I felt really honoured to be able to have done that.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
So before we continue, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably a dance music producer trying to break through. And that's exactly why we created the Toolroom Academy Production Certificate course. It's an online program that certainly changed the game in house music education. Over 3 months, we write a track together to a professional level. You receive professional A&R feedback and technical feedback along the way every single week. And you'll join a really supportive, genuine community of like-minded producers as well. Our students have gone on to get signed to labels like Toolroom, Armada, Spinning, Nervous, Solid Grooves. They've started DJing in boiler rooms and touring internationally. If that sounds like the next step for you, check out toolroomacademy.com for more info. In general, like most artists that you've sat down and interviewed, especially if you've got them at the right time, have they all been pretty cool, pretty chill?
Yeah.
I'm not forcing you to call out people that were like,
where do we begin? No, I'm joking.
The list of ones that really pissed you off.
I have my list in my head.
I bet there has been a few weird ones.
There have been a few weird ones. Yeah. There have been a couple of weird ones, especially when I was younger, first starting out. I didn't really know how to shut down an interview or how to really stand up for myself. I was really young, and and there were definitely times where I probably felt a little bit uncomfortable, or an artist.
Has it ever been like that, where you've actually thought this is a bit?
Yeah, I had one issue at Amnesia with an artist where security came and said this interview is over because they were really stepped the line, really crossed the line. Yeah.
Did that affect you? Like how you, with what you were doing with your job in future? Did you change your mindset? Like, I think, okay, I got to think about this a bit differently stepping into these.
I think it made me decide that if that ever happened to me again, that I would stand up for myself, because I was upset with myself that I hadn't hadn't shut it down before, and I was just kind of letting somebody make me feel really silly and small. And also disrespect my work, because my job ultimately is having a conversation with you. And obviously, and you'll know the same, when you interview someone, you want the other person to feel comfortable. Yeah. So I make that person feel comfortable and welcome within the space where we're doing the interview. So if somebody then crosses the line and takes that somewhere else, for me, it's very disrespectful. Yeah. So I really promised myself that I would never let that happen again. And I was very, very lucky that it never happened again up until about 3 years ago. It happened with another artist whilst I was working at SXM Festival, which is in St. Martin, and I was doing all of their interviews. And the same thing happened again. Somebody really crossed the line. And I remember Rossi saying to me, are you going to let him talk to you like that? And it clicked what had happened those 10 years before. Yeah. And I thought, actually, no, this is not happening. And we shut the interview down. I never let the interview go out. Management got involved. His management were brilliant, actually. So yeah, I think it
Respect
definitely
to
made
you
me
for doing that, taking control and just being like, no,
yeah,
that's
you
not
have
on.
to. You have
Yeah,
to.
definitely.
I think because they were like, oh, she's a young girl, doesn't, obviously she hasn't been doing this for very long.
Yeah.
And, you have to really stand your ground.
Did you
in
ever
this
feel
industry.
that, like in general, a little bit, that you were sometimes thought of in that way, like as a young female?
I think what I've just said is probably the only time I've
Times.
ever felt like that. I've never let myself feel smaller than anyone else, because I think you have to know your worth.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
I've always thought to myself, no, I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to let anyone make me feel small. I think one thing is somebody make you feel small, another thing is people being disrespectful.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I've ever felt small as a woman or a young woman at that time interviewing people, because I'd always made the decision in my head that I knew what I was doing and that I was worth it, and that I should be in that room doing what I was doing.
Yeah, confidence is everything, isn't it?
100%.
And I think everyone, whoever you are coming into it, you've got to have that. You've got to believe in what you're doing, believe in your worth, right?
Absolutely.
And in general, the music scene is pretty. It's actually a really safe space, and generally people are super nice. It's not actually as big as people think it is.
It's not.
Like when you talk about the scene, the people involved in it, but things. There are going to be people out there in any walks of life that
always, and I think also in any creative space, especially if you are, if you're out there, if your face is out there, or any art that you put out into the world, people are always going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
But the differentiating factor is if you decide that it's going to get to you or if it's not going to get to you. And then I think once you decide that it's not going to get to you, then you just kind of think whatever, you can say what you want.
Did you find in those early days, like the majority of artists that you were interviewing, were they generally male, like DJs at the clubs and stuff?
Yes, 100%. In fact, I remember my early days, my first couple of years, 2013, 2014, I could probably count on two hands the amount of female artists that I interviewed. It was very much.
Did you think about that at the time?
Weirdly, no. I think it's more when I look back on it.
Yeah.
I think at that point, I was just so into what I was doing. I was like, who's next kind of thing.
But I think the scene in general felt a bit like that.
Yeah.
So where we are now, where we're just, so much of the industry is trying to actively just push inclusion and diversity. But back in that time, I think it just sort of rolled, didn't it?
It just rolled.
It's not that everyone just accepted it, but I think people just didn't. I don't know if I feel ashamed to say it, but you just didn't notice it.
You didn't, and even as a woman, I didn't notice it either. As you say, I think it was just the way it was, and these were all very talented people, and that's where they were, and they just happened to be men, and that's just the way it was.
But the difference now to like your guests now and who you're interviewing at shows as well as your podcast.
Yeah,
I know you do a lot of female artists and a lot of diversity of guests.
Yeah,
don't you?
I do. I think there's a lot more now as well than there probably was back then. So I think it's easier now to have female guests on.
Definitely. Well, you're representing. You think that as well from that early age.
Totally.
Coming into that, was there? I don't think of that many sort of brands, clubs that were kind of doing that.
No.
And with a young female PR presenter sort of representing them. And Amnesia as well. I mean,
I know.
Let's talk about, because Amnesia, it's like, that's like the god of history of Ibiza clubs. It's one of the originals. Obviously, Pasha from the very beginning and stuff, but Amnesia's always had that.
Yep.
Just that special thing, because it's a massive club, but it's never gone. It's always had the sort of real spirit of Ibiza. It's never gone fully commercial, even though it is a massive brand.
Mm-hmm. I think that is the special thing about Ibiza, and that is, I'm probably biased, but Amnesia will always hold a special place in my heart and will always be my favourite club in the world. And I think the reason is because it is really the only place left that has that true Ibiza essence still.
Yeah.
Obviously space is now high. You've got Universe. Pasha has been taken over by another company. You've got DC10, also DC10. I would say you've still got that Ibiza feel to it, but Ibiza Amnesia still has the same four walls that it always was. Okay, the terrace is now closed. It doesn't have it's not the open terrace like it used to be, but it just, nothing changes inside. It's the same owner as it was, and I love that. I always remember one of my favorite things about working in Amnesia was that when I used to get there on a morning and I used to walk through the club and it was daytime, and I always used to think, oh, the amount of things that have happened in this club, the amount of people that have met, or the amount of people that have met their best friend for the first time, or their partner, or have had the best day of their life, or been proposed to, or just all of these random things.
It's all emotional moments. That's what it is when you walk in somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I honestly think you can sense it.
It's so emotional.
Because when you think about it, every day, every night, even if you just add up how long the event goes on for, how many drops, those moments, and thousands of people are having this huge euphoric moment.
It's
There's something
amazing.
about that. I think when you understand it, when you're into it, and you walk into somewhere like that, I know I felt that. I think it was the year 2000, the first time I went in there, and I still have the same feeling now.
At Amnesia.
Yeah, when I walk in.
Yeah.
When I walk in, it's the same thing. And I know some of that's my personal connection to having that experience back then, but it's magical, isn't it?
I recently did a voiceover for Amnesia. So this year is Amnesia's 50-year anniversary.
That's just massive, isn't it?
Which is huge. And during IMS this year, they had this VR box that you could sit in. You put on your glasses. And I did the voiceover for it. So it was going through Amnesia through the very beginning up until now.
Wicked.
And you could see pictures and images and videos of what it was like back in the day. And even just doing the voiceovers, I was like, this is so cool to do, and just to kind of go back to the very beginning. And when Amnesia, did you know Amnesia used to be called the Workshop of Forgetfulness?
No, I didn't know that.
That's what it used to be called. And then there's a name for it, is Amnesia, obviously. I was like, just how cool is that? Just like little things about.
That is wicked.
And that's what I love.
Did you do that in English and Spanish?
Yeah, I did one in English and one in Spanish.
Of course you did. Yeah. Love that. I need to watch that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool. They brought up some really great footage and pictures and sounds of, DJ Alfredo. And
I've seen some of the really old photos.
Yeah.
And it's just outside the actual terrace bit.
Yeah.
And it looks brilliant.
Yeah.
It looks brilliant. Although you could literally look at it now, and some of the fashion, it's literally what people look like again now.
Literally.
It's come full circle. What an amazing place. So you still obviously have got a great relationship with them.
Yeah, I still do quite a lot with them. I do a lot of their voiceovers for like their social videos after closings and openings and stuff, where they have like this like mysterious voice about Ibiza and stuff.
So you've done quite a long period in Ibiza then, from that initial time of going over there, going backwards and forwards, and then you decided to actually stay.
Yeah, I did 11 years. I did 11 years. 5 of those during winter, I would go somewhere else. So the first year I went back to my parents, and then after that, Amnesia was going to open a club in Barcelona. So the owner of Amnesia had said to me, do you want to come and work on Amnesia Barcelona during the winter seasons? So for a couple of winter seasons, I would go and work in Barcelona. Amnesia Barcelona never actually happened in the end. Right. But we had another club there called Atlantida. So we would work on that as well. And so I'd work with them in winter, and then we'd all go back together.
Amazing.
As a big Amnesia family.
You were living there in Barcelona for the winter.
Yes.
And that's often the case with a lot of Ibiza workers, isn't it?
A
lot of them sort of move together.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
stuff in the winter and come back.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Although after a few years, so I think by my 5th year, I'd made so many friends there, and I decided that that's where I wanted to be. I then decided that I was going to stay in Ibiza for the winter season as well. And I absolutely loved living there in winter. It's just there's so much happening. It was all about the local people. There was still a lot of events happening. A few of the clubs would open here and there, but there was just so much. It was just so nice. I think one of the the lovely things about Ibiza is, one of the crazy and weird things also about Ibiza is you make friends that you will see at the beginning of the season. So we would all, the beginning of the season, let's say April, May, go out, have a party together. Normally it would be like a Circo Loco DC10 or something like that. And that would kind of be your goodbye for the season, because after that, everyone is so fully intense with work that you don't see them again until the end of the season. And then when it's closings and you see them again on the dance floor and everyone was like, we've done it, we've made it through another season. That sense of community in Ibiza was just the best feeling ever, and was also one of the things that also took me back to Ibiza. I just loved that feeling so much. I bet
that can carry right through the winter for the ones that
stay. Exactly. So then
it's almost like you've all been through something together.
Yeah,
so you all
totally.
Sort of stay.
Or
nice.
it would be like midsummer and you would be like walking down Playa d'Embossa or something, and one person is off to go and do their waitressing job, and then another one's off to DJ, and you'd all be like, right, okay, cool, right, you've got it, we'll see you whenever I see you again. And that feeling was just always so cool. We would always have like this one space at Amnesia where would always be the same group of people and would always meet there. You would never message anyone, you just would know that you would get there and they'd be there. After a cocoon, would always go outside of Amnesia, and you know the little walls that are outside Amnesia, the ones with all the pebbles. We'd always meet at that wall. Never message anyone, but would always know that at the end of the night they'd be there. And that was a really special time.
That's
really
nice.
You know,
that's really nice. I'd love to go to Ibiza in the winter and experience that. People that do it, or even that go for a trip or that stay there, just say it's the same magical island, but there's a slightly different feel and the pace. But you've still got some of that magic of the party in as well.
Totally. And also the hikes. The hikes you can do are
amazing.
So cool.
Just do some nice walking. And even, a few of the guys from Toolroom have done it and cycled.
Yeah.
And I saw that a few years ago, seeing Pete Tong, and he was doing it for something before IMS, raising some money for charity, cycling. And I was like, what a great idea.
Yeah,
maybe not in the height of summer, but
Yeah, but for winter. Yeah. And it's great temperature and it's brilliant.
Yeah, because it is an island that I think people, when they generally go clubbing, it's just like Playa d'Embossa, Ibiza Town, San Antonio, and it's like,
totally.
The island is amazing, isn't it? I've done it a little bit and gone up to the north and seen some other spots, and you're like, what? This is like...
I think that's sometimes a misconception that people have of Ibiza as well, is that people think that it is just a party island and that there's nothing else to it, where actually if you went and discovered the north of the island, or not even necessarily the north, but just the coves or the quieter areas, there's so much more to offer.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
Special place in your heart then.
It is, yeah. I appreciate it a lot more now that I don't live there.
Yeah.
Now when I go back, I'm like, oh, it's just so good.
So what was that? What was the sort of separation towards the end of that, when you were working for Amnesia and that was your regular job, and you were like, I want to cut away from this? Do I want to do my own thing? Like, what was that change?
So I'd left Amnesia a few years before I actually left Ibiza. There was a period of time where I was working for Amnesia and for Ibiza Global Radio at the same time. How I did that, I do not know, because the hours I had at Amnesia, where I used to then fit in a few hours of radio, was just beyond me. But I was doing that at the same time. And it was just getting to a point where I felt like there was just nothing else left for me to do. I'd kind of interviewed everyone that I'd wanted to interview. I'd definitely put in my shift.
Yeah.
And I just wanted something.
Done some serious partying.
I'd done some serious partying, and I thought, this is it. I need something bigger from here. So I ummed and ahed about leaving for a couple of years. It took me about a good 2 years to actually leave Ibiza.
I can imagine. So once you've got something good as well,
exactly.
You've built something of life around that, it's quite hard to just separate, isn't it?
And all my best friends are there. I had my dog there. I obviously have my dog Disco with me now, but he was very much settled and loved living in Ibiza. But then the apartment that I was living in was a rental, and I'd lived there for a few years, and it was getting sold. And I thought, this is it. This is my sign. This is my push that, I don't want to go and find somewhere else to go and live in now. I'm going to leave. So yeah, that's why I decided to come back to the UK.
And so then you obviously started working for different brands and people that you've obviously, all these connections, all that networking. So would you say a lot of that, the Ibiza sort of networking really helped? set things up beyond that for longevity.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the places or brands that I'd worked for then, you know, carried on working with me outside of Ibiza, or for the first couple of years that I was back here. I mean, I've only been back here for 3 years now, but the first couple of years, I was still working a lot in Ibiza, just going backwards and forwards. So like Boiler Room, for example, they had a residency at Amnesia. So I'd go back once a week to go and host the Boiler Rooms at Amnesia. But then I would also work for Boiler Room over here in London. So there began to be a lot of crossover of brands and events that I was working for.
Yeah.
So 100%, if I hadn't have been in Ibiza, I don't think a lot of this would have transpired into what it is
so
today.
much comes of that. I think that generally it's a thread that we have from so many people that sit here and we chat to, is the networking side of it that keeps whatever they're doing in their job completely running.
100%. As I said before, the part of going to all of these events and staying up until really late, or, you know, going to places that I probably wouldn't necessarily go to now, but when I was younger and was going to all of these different places, it definitely opened up my network so much. And it's just so important to actually just put yourself out there. And
a lot of it's genuine friendships, right?
It is.
Isn't it? That you're actually building with people and then working with.
Totally. And I think another great thing about this industry is that people really do look out for each other. You know, especially somewhere like Ibiza, people want to help you. People want to see you grow. And there was definitely that sense of community there, and that really helped me get, you know, push further in my career as well.
And totally like grow as a presenter, as a broadcaster, as an interviewer, for like the techniques that you've done. So before we continue, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably a dance music producer trying to break through. And that's exactly why we created the Toolroom Academy Production Certificate course. It's an online program that certainly changed the game in house music education. Over 3 months, we write a track together to a professional level. You receive professional A&R feedback and technical feedback along the way every single week. And you'll join a really supportive, genuine community of like-minded producers as well. Our students have gone on to get signed to labels like Toolroom, Armada, Spinning, Nervous, Solid Grooves. They've started DJing in Boiler Rooms and touring internationally. If that sounds like the next step for you, check out toolroomacademy.com for more info. You have had quite a diverse career within that. All the sort of types of broadcasting and interviewing that you've done, and spoken to so many artists, DJs, industry people. So you must have learned a lot from these people, or taken on quite a lot of awareness of how different roles work in the industry and how people are, and learned a lot from just interviewing people. I mean, humans sitting down and having conversations, right?
Absolutely.
Like you said earlier, some of those ones in Ibiza that have gone a bit wrong, or not wrong, but they've gone in the wrong direction.
Yeah, totally.
You must have learned so much.
I have.
Through doing that. You know?
I have learned so much. And also there's been like specific people that have really, you know, helped shape my way of interviewing. Like, for example, Anna Tor, she was the one that hired me for Ibiza Global Radio. And I'd only done really radio at university up until that point. And she would stay with me on an evening after my radio shows that I would do, and she'd be like, right, when you speak into the microphone, think about this, or, you know, start a link like that. And awesome. It was great to have her as a mentor and really help me build my way of interviewing. But also there was a lot of artists that I began interviewing, you know, when they were probably just starting out, and now I've interviewed them so many times as the years go by, and it always feels really, really special to feel like we've kind of grown on this path together. Like Joseph Capriati, for example, I interviewed him in his very first year of his residency with Music On at Amnesia. And I remember him coming in and being very nervous about the interview. I was nervous about the interview, and we kind of got through it together. And since then, we've done so many interviews since then, up until a couple of weeks ago at IMS when I did the keynote talk with him, and it was just a one-on-one talk, and it felt really emotional. We both ended up crying. Maybe it's because I'm hormonal, I don't know, but
that's really special.
It was really special.
That's
and
amazing.
He was like, it's so nice to have felt like we've grown through this together, and every year we have a different talk, and you've done something different and I've done something different. So there's been a lot of artists that I've been able to kind of grow with as well, which is really nice.
Quite common in the industry in general, like even with artists together.
Yeah.
Like the DJs and artists that start together, and you're on the same journey.
Totally.
And they've been on that same journey for years. And I think it's quite interesting, this, isn't it? Because especially for a lot of people that listen and watch this podcast that are mainly just thinking about being DJs, producers, and maybe not even necessarily thinking of other careers within dance music, and how that's worked for you, kind of side by side, someone like Joseph Capriati, but you've both built a career, and both kind of worked up at the same time.
Totally. It's weird because I think there are a lot of comparisons between upcoming DJs and maybe the path that I took, in the sense that there's a lot of rejection, a lot of no's.
100%.
A lot of no's, but you just kind of build yourself up and you carry on.
The endless graph and the hustle.
Yeah.
And seeking, you've had to take all those opportunities and seek opportunities and use them where you can. Right, I'm going to grab them then. I'm going to grab them now.
Totally.
I've not been doing it like you, but I remember the exact same thing. That David Guetta interview I was talking about, I could never have done it as a full career like you've done. But I remember we were at IMS and we were sort of just shadowing him a bit all day. And it was a bit like, what do you reckon? And trying to do the same, talking to his manager at the time. And it was only because I had got a backstage pass at the party at the castle at the start. Is it the start?
Yeah, Adult Villa.
And I literally hung right next to the stage by the booth. There was like people from like MTV and stuff with cameras. And because he'd seen me and known us a bit all day, he came off and he went to his manager and she was like, "You've got to do some interviews." And he was like, and he saw me and he went, "Oh yeah, I need to talk to the guys from Toolroom."
Nice.
And I just sort of pushed in and managed to get it, and ended up like the MTV guys were like just filming us because they were like, "We're not going to get one." That was when I asked the most stupid questions as well. But it was a full day of like, got to try and get that opportunity, and it's exactly the same as like, I mean, I even did it, just sitting there with a mixtape or a mix CD at an event, just waiting to hand it to the DJ.
Absolutely. It was
the same sort of thing,
It's the
isn't
same
it?
sort of thing. And as I said at the beginning of this chat, waiting until 5 or 6 in the morning for a DJ to do an interview, with me knowing that there's very high probability that they're going to say, "I'm not doing the interview now," but you just wait, you just do it. That's just what you have to do. You have to hustle. You have to put in the hours.
That must have been gutting when they did do that. If you've been waiting all day,
so annoying.
And you were just literally like, "I've been waiting all day."
I know, but what are you going to do? You can't force them to do
so
it.
you've obviously had a lot of that, and you've moved on from a lot of that. And you just keep going, right?
Yeah, I've got no's to this day. I got a no a few days ago on a guest that I wanted for my podcast, and you just think, that's fine. It is what it is, and I will try again in another couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, fair play. Is there I know that was a real nice personal moment with Joseph Capriati, but has there only been interviews that you've done when someone has sort of said something to you and it's been a really poignant moment, like something's clicked for you, like actually personally or in the industry, and changed your mindset or made you think, wow, that's really interesting what they've just said? Have you had many of those moments?
I think there's definitely been moments more of me realizing that everybody is the same and that I have nothing to worry about and shouldn't get nervous before interviewing an artist.
Yeah.
There has been so many times where I felt intimidated or nervous about interviewing a specific artist, and then I've actually interviewed them, and we are all just humans. We're all exactly the same.
This is so good what you're saying. This is so true.
They have a story to tell. I'm here to channel that story and, to get that story out there.
Do you think it's like a celebrity culture thing? Because, how a lot of us look at DJs and artists, especially when you're a fan.
Yeah.
Because you're obviously a fan of a lot of these people that you're sitting interviewing with. And it's the same as celebrity culture, isn't it? Where we kind of, it's almost like they're not just a normal human. We've elevated them to something different. So you build this up. Then when you're suddenly there, you're like, I
try not to associate the the DJs that I like watching with me going to interview them. Like one thing is me enjoying a set and another thing is me then going to interview them. I remember interviewing Paris Hilton.
Oh, wow.
And being so nervous about interviewing Paris Hilton. Just because it was Paris Hilton, you know, not that I necessarily followed her or liked her that much. But that's what I mean.
It's that celebrity status thing that we put in our heads.
And we went to her apartment where she was staying and we took the camera crew, walked in. I'm mega nervous. And when we got in there, she was eating a bowl of peas with ketchup. And I was like, gross. I know, I was like, she's just actually really normal. That's cool, she was like, hey, how are you? You okay? Came over, like, gave us a hug. And then she was like, okay, so what the question's going to be? And just was like really just normal and humble and nice.
Showing that she's even thinking,
she was caring about it.
I'm caring, I'm a bit nervous. And it makes you suddenly go, oh yeah. We're all just the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that made me just think, you know, we are all exactly the same. I also interviewed Cristiano. This is not music related at all, but I interviewed Cristiano Ronaldo's wife, Georgina, once.
Oh, wow.
And the same thing happened. We were sat down and it was a really hot day in Ibiza. And we were halfway through this interview. And then she said, wait, stop. And she like pulled me over and she was like, you have like a little fly that's stuck to your hair. And then she like pulled this like little bug that had got stuck in my hair and then like did my hair for me. And she was like that. And she was like, hey, that's nice. And I was amazing. Like, this is what I need to know. This is what I learn from doing this. The fact that we are all the same. Some artists are probably even more nervous than I am doing the actual interview. But we're all here for.
Because I think that can hold people back, can't it?
Totally.
I mean, let's label it like imposter syndrome.
Definitely.
I definitely felt it. The first year I was at Toolroom and Mark was suddenly like, right, we're going to Miami, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I'm like, oh my God. I remember being in a lift in Miami Music Week and I was like, just sort of looked to my left and went, right, there's Sandy Rivera. Yeah. And I looked to my right and went, there's someone else. And I'm a big fan. And I'm like, hang on, I'm working in the industry now. And I felt a bit, it was a fear.
It is.
And I think it stopped me just going, hello, mate, saying hello.
I know. But the thing is, most of the DJs and the artists and the people that work within this industry are actually really nice.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we think, oh, you know, they're so-and-so and they've played here and they've played there and they're huge names. But actually, they're so humble and so lovely that they're very, very approachable. In fact, I think that's kind of what differentiates the legends, the ones that are at the top to ones that maybe don't stay at the top. Because if you think about it, think of Carl Cox, think of Jamie, think of Nina, think of Sven. They're all lovely people that are super, super humble. And I think that's the difference.
They're in it for the right reasons. They're in it for the actual love of it and the passion.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people learn from them and, you know, they bring other artists up with them and they have that same mentality. Yeah. So it ends up kind of creating this whole community of just nice people.
So you've had to push through that fear quite a bit in years. You've had to push through it, but it's given you that confidence even more and more.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there still quite a lot? Are there artists that you still would love to interview that you haven't, like some dream ones? Because you have spoken to all those legends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been awesome to sit down and chat to them. But is there someone you're like, or even outside of the music industry?
There are a few. My top one right now, which I'm really trying to push for, is Underworld. Underworld is like my ultimate guest on the podcast.
Oh my God, yeah, that'd be so cool. So you introduced Underworld.
I did.
At Boiler Room Live, right?
I did. I introduced them at Boiler Room London last year, which was without a doubt my career highlight. It was insane doing that. You know when you stood somewhere and you think, why am I doing this? Like, why am I here? It was so weird. In fact,
oh no, but you'd earned that to be there.
Yeah, but still, I just didn't believe that I should be there. I remember reading the email through and saying, I think they've got this wrong. I don't think I should be doing the main stage. I should be doing another stage. And I emailed them back saying, is this correct? And they were like, yeah, we want you to introduce Underworld. And I loved that. And, you know, it was just such a great experience. And I was very nervous, but it worked.
Watching it back, it looked epic. So you didn't try and hustle like after that. Think, I'm going to stand there and try and grab them as soon as they come off.
I thought that was not quite a bit uncool me doing that at that point, because also
Fair.
they'd been rehearsing for this boiler room for a very, very long time, and a lot of effort had gone into it. So I thought, maybe I'll just play it cool, and maybe in the next few months I can then strategically slide into their inbox. So that I then, a few weeks after, I created a reel on the story behind Born Slippy, and it did really, really well on social media. So I thought, right, that's point 2. So now I'm like, okay, do you think this is enough for me to now say, do you think they want to come on the podcast?
This is exactly the same though, what we talk about with DJs and producers. About, it is the long game. You're not just going to send a DM straight to Mark at Toolroom and be like, can you sign this?
Exactly.
You've got to hustle a little bit. You've got to work that way there.
Yeah, you have to create the relationship with people. You can't just go straight in and be like, this is what I want. There has to be more to it, and you have to work. It's another
tie to your career of how it works in the same way with musicians. That's really cool. So you've put it out there.
I've put it out there.
And you've put it out there now here, so we've got to manifest this, right?
Underworld, I really want to interview on my podcast.
I think that would be awesome.
It would be so
I'd
cool.
I'd be rooting for you. I think that would be
How
wicked.
amazing would that be? The amount of stories.
Definite living legends.
Totally.
100%.
Absolutely. But it works, going back to that formula of, creating specific steps to then get to that artist. Another one was Louis Vega. Louis Vega is someone who I've wanted to interview for such a long time. And again, I created a video that spoke about Louis Vega. And then a few weeks later, I got him on the podcast. So I was like, it's all about creating these little steps and, working your way slowly. It's the long run. It's not, you can't do everything short term.
And generally, when you're thinking of people that you want to interview, people you'd like to speak to, do you just think of like, what is your process for that? Do you like, that'd make a great guest because they're like this? Or is it just, I love them and I think they've got something great to offer? Or do you actually look at other interviews and see how they are? Like, do you do a bit of that research?
The way that I decide on who my guests are going to be on the podcast are people that have a great story to tell or something that I want to learn more of.
Yeah.
I definitely fell into a trap a few years ago of interviewing people that had a lot of hype around them at the time. And I would then leave the interview thinking, I haven't learned anything and I don't necessarily like this DJ. Not them in person, but their music.
Yeah.
It's not something that I was necessarily interested in, but it was a numbers thing.
So does it feel truly genuine to you? Like,
it just didn't feel like an authentic interview to me.
Yeah.
And I fell into that trap and I decided that was it. I was never going to do that again. And I made, and to this day, have a really long list of specific topics and clubs that I want to know more about, or specific tracks, specific artists. So I have a long list, and then I will thread names to that list of, people that could potentially tell that story.
Yeah.
So the podcast always started off as a platform for me to network and to know more about different careers. I feel like it's now gone down the storytelling route. Mm-hmm. So it's all about telling great stories and documenting dance music culture, which I think is really necessary in the age that we're in, especially with social media and kind of the production and, big numbers and hype taking over. It's really important to tell the story of where dance music comes from and what our roots are.
I think it's massively important. And I think that is really... I respect that hugely, what you're doing with that. I think that's so good because you think about it, how long where we are from the days that where it actually originated, and those early days when you were first in Ibiza, and we've got so many new generations coming through, or even just people that are older that are coming into the scene now.
Totally.
It's important. It's important that they actually understand that movement from the start, isn't it? It's that journey.
And I do think there's a hunger right now from a younger audience of people wanting to learn more about where we've come from. I think that there was a boom of, it was all about the show and the in the moment and the drop. And I do think now a younger generation that's coming through do want to know a lot more about, how did we get here? Where did it all come from? And even going back to the Louis Vega podcast, I wanted to know more about Paradise Garage and what it was like, and Larry Levan, and he told all of that story. So being able to document that, I feel like that's where my purpose is has now
that's awesome.
become.
And you said that word, it gets thrown around a lot, authenticity. It is the one that sort of gets pulled up as a subject. But I think that's really important for, like, not what just you're doing as a broadcaster, as a storyteller, but in general, artists, because once that's what people actually connect with. And I think that's why when someone first listens, watches your podcast, they'll feel that and they'll sense that. You know, if it's not for them subject-wise, whatever, but people that really connect and latch on, it's because, like you said, you've not walked away and just gone, yeah, that didn't feel right. I was sort of talking about something I didn't really love. It's got to all connect, doesn't it?
It has to. I get a lot of pitches on a weekly basis from publicists and PR companies pitching an artist to come on to the podcast. And one of the biggest and most common mistakes that I see within that is pitches about a specific track or release that's come up from that artist, and that's why they want them to come on.
Yeah.
And I always think to myself, you know, if there's no story there, I know every track and every release and everyone has their own story, but the way things are pitched sometimes, it wouldn't make sense for me to have you on the podcast because we don't really necessarily have the angle or the story to talk about. So I think it's so important for upcoming artists when they're doing press campaigns and pitches to really know what your story is and what is the story that you want to get out there. Don't waste an opportunity on going onto somebody's podcast or a written interview if you don't have your story right. Yeah. I think it's really important to know what it is that you want to get out there. What are you going to contribute to the culture? What are you going to contribute to the wider community? What are people going to learn from you, rather than just stepping into an interview and being like, I have a new track and it's coming out next week on, you know, it's not gonna get, you're not going to gain anything from that.
I think that's great advice for all people in the industry at different stages of what you are, whether you're an artist, broadcaster, you know, how you think about that. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we're at now as well. For people to really connect to you, there needs to be deeper storytelling. Like people want to actually really know more about you, who you are, and what you're passionate about. Because then if there's a connection, they're with you.
Absolutely.
They're with you for the ride, you know. I mean, they're going to follow you along the way, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. There has to be a story there. People want to know more. People want to dig deeper into your career and you and what are the things that you like. And it's not all about what your next release is, you know.
Yeah, totally. Now, you said obviously in the Ibiza times, big sacrifice was time. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah.
How do you feel now? Like in general, your career. Do you feel like you have to sacrifice something? Does it have an effect on your life, your day-to-day life, like working in this industry, in the media side specifically as well? Or is it not? You know, do you get a lot more, do you like see like, well, actually there's just loads of pluses, loads of bonuses with it?
I feel like now everything that used to be a sacrifice now to me seems like it was a purpose at the time. Yeah. So everything that I did sacrifice back then kind of makes sense now, and I know why I've done it. Would I necessarily give up on some of the things that I did back then, whether that be, you know, family time especially, you know, trips that I may go away with my parents or birthdays or things like that because I had to go and work at a festival? I probably wouldn't do that now, no, but because I don't feel like I need to, and I don't really want to. I feel like the purpose of my work now is documenting and storytelling, and I can do that in my own way. I don't necessarily have to be backstage at clubs.
But do you think that is just part of it? Like when you're
actually
building the career, it is all in.
Yeah.
So that is the sacrifice, isn't it?
I do. I believe that is the sacrifice. You know, you do. I do think I probably could have, how could I say it, kind of built boundaries a little bit more when I was younger and not reach burnout as much as I did. But also, again, I think you kind of just learn from those mistakes, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you learn from...
Totally. I think that's quite a mature, open way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I often say to people, like, oh, what would you do differently? And it's quite easy to look back, isn't it? And go, oh, well, I might have done this, I might have done that. But really, that path... You learn from it, right?
I wouldn't have done anything differently in my career. Absolutely anything.
That's
because
really refreshing.
I think that everything that I've done has led me to where I am now. So I wouldn't change anything that I've ever done. And I'm a huge believer in whatever decision you make that is in some way or form going to contribute to your career in the future. So, if you decide to take path A or you decide to take path B, it's going to lead you somewhere.
Yeah. And that hustle, that sacrifice, you're at a point now where you're in control of your career.
Yeah.
Of what you're doing, like you were saying there, but the pictures that come in, you're like, well, that's not right. And
it's nice. It's nice to I feel like I am in a moment or in a position where I don't have to say yes to everything, because I used to say yes to every single job that would come in, everything. And now to be able to say no to things is quite refreshing, and knowing what it is that I want. And if I don't need to do it, then I won't do it.
That's the graft. And obviously it's still the same though, right? You still work.
Yeah.
You still work your butt off, don't you?
Yeah.
The podcast and everything you're doing. And you're still doing the networking, and you're still a lot goes into it, right? For every episode of your podcast. I know what it's like. Because
also I think you do have to keep up these relationships, and you still have to put in the hours of networking. I'm not saying now that I don't go to events, and I still, as we were saying before, a couple of weeks ago, I was working with Drum Code. I still have to go and do these things. Because it's important to keep those relationships. You can't just make them and then walk away from it.
Yeah.
It's all about, nurturing those relationships, and then they will take you to bigger things.
And you talk about how you feel and what you've learned with the podcast. Like when someone's listening to your podcast, like what is it you hope that they gain from it at the end? Do you ever think of it like that? Do you think, or like from when you've obviously got podcasts that you listen to that you follow in all different subjects. Do you think of it like that as a listener? Do you go, I hope someone actually took that from it?
I hope people learn from my podcast. I think that's where I'm at with it now. I hope people can leave the podcast thinking, oh, I never knew this about this specific era of dance music, or I never knew that this club started like that, or this artist started this way. So I think it is all about knowing that people have learned something from it when they listen.
Yeah. I respect for that. All right, well, I want to do some quick fire questions, because you have got a lot of experience backstage and in the industry and around artists. So let's be honest. Okay, so first one. I think I know what you're going to say. Best DJ set you've ever witnessed live.
Who do you think I'm going to say?
Well, I thought you were going to say Underworld Boiler Room, or I think you're going to say that Marco Carola at Amnesia, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, they're probably up there. Another one of my favourite ever sets was Laurent Garnier at Time Warp, when he does the morning sets in the in the glass dome. Oh, it's just so good.
So you've experienced it all, haven't you? You have, though. You're you could be the ultimate jealousy for clubbers of all the sort of events you've been to. That does sound epic. That does sound epic. I've only seen Laurent Garnier a couple of times many years ago, but that sounds amazing.
When you just don't want something to end, and you're like, this can't end. This can't end. That was one of those moments.
I can tell from the smile. Okay, we talk a lot about Ibiza. Outside of Ibiza, where's your favourite city to party? Or maybe not your favourite, because I'm not going to put you on the spot. Where do you think is a bit underrated? People don't realise about. You're like, do you know where? You should go there. That's pretty cool.
Do you know what? The last few years, I've gone over to Riyadh to work.
Oh, wow.
For Middle Beast and for XP conference. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so cool over there. Obviously, they had a bubbling scene for years and years that could never be exposed to the public, and it was all very much behind closed doors until 2016.
Yeah.
And so there's so much talent there that we're just so eager and hungry to get out there and show the world how talented they are. And I think it really shows when you're there. And I loved going to Riyadh. I think that's a really cool, bubbling scene.
Okay, nice. All right, now an artist, because obviously, you not just the legends. Well, maybe some legends, but also you get to interview people that are coming up, and you've got your ear to the ground of who's coming up as well. An artist that you think deserves more recognition, whether it's someone new, someone that's been around for years, never quite popped.
This is such a good
I know,
question.
It's a difficult question, isn't it? Because it's like if someone said to me, what's my favourite house record? I'm like, what?
How do you,
How do you answer that?
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
I think one thing I would definitely say is I think there needs to be more recognition for producers rather than DJs. I think it's always like DJs. And sometimes it's, it's the producers that are the ones behind these amazing tracks and moments on the dance floor.
So that's interesting coming from your perspective, actually. I think because we're in that so much, then we think of it differently. Okay, that's cool. So shout out to all producers.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Backing them. Relive one night from your career. Now, whether this is just partying or like an actual night where you're like, oh my God, that was epic from work.
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question. Maybe when I interviewed you and Miles, because then I met my future husband.
I know, right?
How weird is that?
I know. That is mad, isn't it?
Whoever would have thought from a podcast that would happen.
I know, right? Yeah.
That would be one for sure. Probably.
That's mad. Me and Miles talked about
so
that,
mad.
and I'm just like, because he'd like gone through breakup and stuff.
I know.
And afterwards, and I think me and him actually were like talking quite deeply about stuff, like even on the way, about how life can change and stuff. And then there he goes, meets the love of his life.
That is another thing that I have learned from interviewing is that you just never know where an interview can take you. So be prepared, because I was not prepared for that interview.
That's brilliant. Now I know. You never have known.
Everything just kind of went, oh no, what am I doing now? What's going on?
How's this one? How did I do it? Did I agree to this? Why are Peter Miles coming from Toolroom? What are we doing?
No,
wicked.
that was an amazing.
It is.
Amazing
What a change in your life, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
What is there anything that's sort of misunderstood from what you do in your career?
I think, especially living in Ibiza, a lot of people think that it is all just party and good times and you get to travel the world. Don't get me wrong, I've had a really great time and I've had some amazing experiences, but there are a lot of hours that go into it and it isn't all fun and games.
It's not all glamorous, is it?
It's not. It really isn't. And I'm sure...
I can imagine you've had some funny scenarios of like last minute getting ready or doing prep or...
All the time, literally like squeezing every minute out of what I can just to try and prepare some last questions or, running around. There is a lot of work that goes into it. It's not all...
I can imagine. Fun. What's one thing that people should never do backstage? You've been backstage a lot. You've done a lot of networking, a lot of hustle. What's one thing that grates on you when you see people doing it backstage or DJ booth? In the booth.
That's a great question. Assume that they should be backstage.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that go backstage. Yeah, there are a lot of people that go backstage and just think that they need to be there, and and because they're backstage, they should also be able to drink the riders, and they should also get all of their friends backstage. And then you just think, and then they just kind of walk around with this energy, like I'm back, and you're just like, chill out.
It's way beyond I'm here to just actually
so uncool.
Because I love who's playing and I want to be there. It's like it's past that, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Or especially when it's people that you have absolutely no connection to the music industry whatsoever, and you're like, sometimes we're just there for work, and you're like, I just want to chill out on the sofa and and just have a drink, and then it's just all these random people.
Yeah, totally. I saw that clip the other day of Marco Corolla playing, and he's like playing like that, and a hand comes through under his arm with a phone, like going through, and he's just like,
what you
pats
doing?
it away. I love the way he just sort of flicks it away. It's like, come on, like, where's the etiquette?
I know,
in that?
it's so bad, isn't it? It has got really bad.
Is. Now I've got a question here, but I reckon it's you. Like, who would survive longest in Ibiza on zero sleep? I reckon you've done some practice on it. Maybe not right now.
I feel like I'm well prepared for when the baby comes, though. I'm like, this is what I've trained for my whole life. I'll be up all night.
I bet you were quite good at surviving on zero sleep though back in those days.
Yeah,
right?
you just get used to it.
Working those long days.
You just do it. It is what it is. You just nap where you can here and there. I do remember days of literally, from where I lived to Amnesia, there was probably like a 12-minute drive. And I remember many of times having to stop at the petrol station, which was only 6 minutes from my house, to have a nap to make their the next 6 minutes.
Love it. I respect that you're actually like, no, I'm not going to make it. I need to
No,
stop
I
and
need to
just
stop.
close my eyes.
I remember
for a
telling my
minute.
mum that once, and she was like, "What? That is ridiculous."
I love it. I love it. So what's next? What's on the agenda for you? What's coming?
I mean, besides baby,
That's got to
quite
be
a
the big
big
thing,
thing.
right? Have you kind of put a bit of a stopgap on the podcast for whilst that, or you kind of?
Nah, I'm just gonna roll with it.
I love that. I love that.
I'm just gonna.
Miles will literally be left holding the baby.
He
as
will,
it said.
yeah. No,
So,
I'm gonna podcast with the baby.
Love it.
I think
Love it.
the thing that I'm trying to work out right now is how I carry on with the podcast and do them remotely. I mean, we've got great tools now, like Riverside, for example. For anyone that ever wants to get into podcasting, it's such an amazing tool to start out with because you can literally podcast remotely. Riverside does all your, cut downs for you, and it's a fantastic tool. So I'm just trying to work out if that is the way forward, if there's ways where I can, just like run out the house and go and do a podcast for an hour and come back.
I'm sure your years of experience, you are going to absolutely hustle it. Like in these little I mean, the fact that you can have a little 6-minute nap at a petrol station on a 12-minute drive. That's honestly, that's what you need to be a parent, to be a mother. I think you're going to smash it.
It's all about making the most out of every minute of your day that you have.
Totally.
So I'm really excited to obviously enter this new chapter of motherhood and work out how I balance my career with motherhood at the same time. I know it's not going to be an easy journey, but
you'll smash it.
It'll be fine.
I'm looking forward to the toddler raves as well that you're going to be setting up with Juliet's husband.
Me too. How cool would that be?
My kid's too old now.
Yeah.
I'm not having another one.
You're going to have another one.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But that sounds wicked. But you never know. It could change your perspective and open some things up, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think, after, as we spoke about with the interview with Juliet Fox, there are so many other women that I've spoken to now that also want to share their journey on, being in the creative industry and becoming a mother at the same time. Yeah. I think it's going to unlock other little opportunities as well,
It's wicked.
I honestly thought that there was going to be work that would end up not happening, or people would be like, oh, she's pregnant, so we're not going to hire her, we're not going to book her. But I've been quite surprised. It's been the actual opposite. Lots of like random little festival jobs have come in and stuff for, doing their interviews. So it's been really nice to know that the industry are still super supportive and,
cool.
there.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So someone that's watching this, listening to this and like, I've not heard, can you put me on the guest list podcast? Like, socials, podcasts, where's the best place to come and find, listen, watch?
So you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts. You can watch it or listen to it on Spotify. You can find me on YouTube also. And then I always put up lots of little clips from the podcast on my Instagram. On my Instagram.
What's your Insta handle?
Katie Hay Knight.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Honestly, go support it. It is a brilliant, if you haven't, it is a brilliant podcast and you will get a lot from it. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been so nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have I passed as an interviewer? Am I all right?
I would give you a 10 out of 10, Pete.
Get in. Come on. I want a new certificate now.
Yeah.
I've reached the levels
I'll send you the certificate in the post.
Thank you for joining us. It's really, really insightful. And I just think what's so cool for people that are getting into media as well, but just in general, working in the industry, there's a lot to take away from that. There's a lot to take away from that, from your story.
Well, I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. I've loved talking about it.
I've enjoyed it.
It's really nice because I don't normally get to do it on this side, so it's nice to talk about it.
I'm glad it's chilled, and good luck with everything. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
So excited. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed that chat. Make sure you click like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode. All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Awesome.
Oh, was that okay?